welcome to lesson 1 of the Productivity and Wellbeing course by Aurora Wellness. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at goal setting and refinement. What we're going to cover is why goals fail, the difference between SMART and SMARTer goals, goal setting versus goal refinement and what that means, a deeper dive into the goal refinement process, and then zooming back out to look at the goals overall. And finally, I'll set the homework and the action steps for you to complete before our coaching call. So have a look at why goals fail. Everybody has set a goal that they wanted to achieve, one they thought they could accomplish in a certain time frame, and we've all failed, whether that's losing weight or learning a language or picking up a new skill or completing a project at work. We've all done it. And it's important for us to understand where goal setting and goal refinement has gone wrong for us in the past, so we can avoid making those same traps and mistakes and falling into those same traps and pitfalls again in the future. Goals often fail because they lack purpose. It's really important for us to understand why we are setting a certain goal. Is it something that we are personally driven and motivated to do because it fits our own personal objectives, or is it something that someone's given to us? And if so, can we clarify why they've done so? So is it part of a wider corporate objective? Is it something that our department has determined that needs to be done to fit in with that corporate objective? We need to understand why we are doing what we're doing to help us be motivated to achieve it. So that's the first thing. Also, we need to know the details. We need to know the where, the when, the how, and the what's as well. So we need to know not just what we're doing or why we're doing it, but where, when, and how. How are we going to achieve this goal? If we don't identify those things up front, it's very, very difficult for us to succeed. If your goal is too big, too broad, or has too many elements for you to control, it's going to be very difficult to succeed. So we need to make sure that we've really looked at the detail and we have really identified what tasks need to be done and what resources are required to complete it before we go about setting our goal, because otherwise it's going to be very, very hard for us to achieve said goal. And if we also focus on all the negatives, or if we state our goal in negative terms, then again, it's hard for those goals to succeed. Oftentimes people say they want to lose weight. Losing weight is a negatively stated goal. It doesn't give any of that where, when, and how. It doesn't give any of that details. It just says that it just identifies that you feel that you don't want to be the weight that you currently are. It's much better to reframe that as a positive statement. I will lose X amount of weight by such and such a time. And we'll have a look at how you can positively state your goals going forward. And finally, overwhelm, exhaustion, and burnout. It's really easy for us to set goals that are just too difficult for us to manage, or to not take into consideration all the things that we've got going on that might get in the way of us completing a goal. So we need to really look carefully at what our schedule is doing, how much time we have, before we identify what we can do and whether or not it's achievable in that time frame. So those are some of the reasons why goals fail. So how do we set a goal that is likely to succeed? And this SMART model is a very popular one because it has a look at all of the elements required for a successful goal. A goal has to be specific. So ask yourself, what is it exactly that you want to achieve? You don't just want to lose weight, but you want to fit into a certain dress, or do you want to weigh a certain amount? Or do you want to lose a certain weight? Or do you want to have a certain BMI? Whatever it is, let it be specific. What resources do you need to succeed? Do you need gym membership? Do you need a personal trainer? Do you need a dietitian? Do you need a doctor's appointment? Do you need to get different food? Think about all the things that you'll need in advance of the goal to determine whether or not it's something that you actually can achieve. What challenges are you likely to face? Is it your birthday coming up and you've got a massive blowout, so there's no point in starting this goal until you've had that massive party? Or do you know that it's difficult for you because you have Christmas coming up and your mother always cooks certain meals and you know you're going to pile on the pounds? Whatever it is, be clear about the challenges that are going to block you so you can identify ways around it. That increases instantly your chances of success. Goals must be measurable. If you can't measure it, then you can't achieve it. How will you know you've succeeded? So when do you want to achieve this goal? Make sure you have an idea of a good time frame for completion. So if you want to achieve your desire to lose a certain amount of weight by a certain time, when is that? And how will you know you've accomplished this goal? Is your goal achievable? And by that, we mean, is it something that's realistic for you? So it's not realistic that you'll be able to lose 10 pounds every week consistently for 15 weeks. So that goal will never succeed. But it might be achievable for you to lose 2 pounds a week consistently for 12 or 15 weeks. So that's a goal that is realistic for you. Make sure you framed your goal in terms of something that is possible for you to succeed at. Is the goal relevant to you? If you're talking about a work goal, does it align to your team or your department or your organizational targets? Because that's important, that it fits in with the wider organizational objectives. If it's a personal goal, is it something that you personally consider worthwhile? And finally, your goal must be time-based. When is the deadline? Do you need to break up that deadline into smaller goals as part of an overall project timeline? These are all things that you need to consider. So when we go back to the example of losing weight, instead of stating, I want to lose weight, which is vague, negatively stated, and doesn't have a timeline, it's much better to say, I will lose 10 pounds in 5 weeks by losing 2 pounds per week, and have a clear deadline. So I plan to finish this by the 1st of March in time for my birthday party so I can wear such and such a dress. That's a very clear and specific SMART goal that's realistic, that's time-based, that's measurable, that's achievable, and that's specific. That's the kind of goal we're looking for. But then there's another level, because no matter how good you are at setting goals, life always gets in the way. And it will throw you a few curveballs that will require you to take further action and course correction. And that's where the smarter element comes in. It's important that you take time during your goal completion process to evaluate your goal and all the progress that you've made. Are you still on track? Is the goal still relevant? Do you have to adjust any of the steps along the way? If you need to tweak something, then go ahead and tweak it. If you need to change a time frame, then go ahead and change a time frame. That doesn't represent failure of the goal. That represents you having more information in which to make a goal that is realistic. So that whole process of evaluating and adjusting and making the reviews required is a critical part of good goal setting. And then finally, reward. We always forget about this, but motivation is so important when we set big goals for ourselves. So identify suitable rewards that will help incentivize you along the way, especially when things get tough. Something that you can give yourself for the completion of this goal. So now let's have a look at the difference between goal setting and goal refinement. In goal setting, as we've just seen, We're looking at the surface level. We're looking at the high level goal. I will lose 10 pounds in 5 weeks by the 1st of March so I can fit into that dress. It represents your desires, things that you want to achieve, your wish list. And it helps connect you to your purpose so that you can be healthier, have a healthier BMI, or so you can fit into a certain dress for a certain party. Whatever that purpose is, the reason why, the goal setting connects you to that. But then we need to start getting into the details. That's what the goal refinement process is about. It's about sorting out the how and the when and the where of your what and your why. It prepares you to take action. It sets the scene so that you know exactly what steps are required in order to achieve that goal. So let's break the goal process down. You've got your overall project. Let's say, for argument's sake, the project is to lose 10 pounds over 5 weeks. You need to then break that into components. So what are the components of your weight loss journey? It would be typically the exercise that you plan to do and the changes to your calorific intake or dietary consumption, right? Set timescales that are realistic and achievable for each of those components. How many times a week do you plan to exercise? How many calories are you planning on eating a day? And how long do you plan to diet for? What type of diet do you want to do? Then within the components, there will be certain tasks that need to be achieved. So you've identified you need to increase your exercise by up to 3 times a week in order to lose weight at that goal. What tasks are you going to do? What fitness regime are you going to implement? Are you going to go to the gym 3 times a week? Or is it going to be a run, a cycle, and a swim? What is it you're going to do? And set time frames for that. I'm going to spend 30 minutes each week swimming. I'm going to do a 15-minute run every week and a 1-hour bike ride. Whatever it is, make sure you set times for each of the tasks as well as the components. And here's a pro tip: no matter how long you think it will take, double it. Always add that additional contingency so that you've got a buffer if any of your tasks or components overruns, which typically they do. So if you think the overall goal of losing 10 pounds is going to take you 5 weeks, ideally give yourself 10 weeks. But if you can't, at least give yourself 7 or 8. Once you've set and identified your overall goal, identified your components and your tasks, it takes just 5 minutes to take an overall bird's eye view of the process and make sure that your timeline for completion still works and is still in line with either your personal goal or your corporate objectives. What is your coaching goal, your end of coaching program marker? So I'm going to set you some tasks and you need to identify a goal, and I'm going to ask you to think about what's your end of coaching marker milestone or your end of program marker milestone. What tasks or components do you think you will have completed by then? Identify those right now off the outset so that you can successfully monitor your progress along the way. So it's homework time. What I want you to do is to identify your goal. Use your Wheel of Life top 3 focus areas and reflect on your A Day in the Life homework and identify one goal that you want to work on over the duration of this course. This is a test goal, so it's not for life, it's just for the program. But find something that you want to work on, whether it's something at work or something that's very important to you personally. Make sure that your goal follows those SMART principles that we talked about earlier. So it has to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-based. If your goal can be clearly stated in those 5 categories, then it's a SMART goal. You'll find your lesson worksheet by clicking on this link. Please remember to download a copy. before you edit it so that nobody else can see your answers. And if you want extra brownie points, please take a look at this really helpful video, a complete guide to goal setting, and I'll explain a lot more about SMART and smarter goals. This is what it's about. You want to set goals that excite you, goals that inspire you. There's no point in setting a goal that's going to be very easy for you to achieve. It's going to bore you along the way, and it's not going to show you actually all the components that you need to have in goal setting. So choose something that stretches you a little bit. It should excite you and slightly scare you a little bit. Because as Michelangelo said, the great danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our mark. It's what's that? No guts, no glory. Come on, we can do this.